Hello once again, everybody. Welcome to the third part of our ongoing series on how to build a Lord of the Rings game table. If you watched the second episode, we discussed on how we would build the hills, how they were cut out from the polystyrene, and then we went ahead, we glued them down with liquid nails, put some weights on them to make sure the pressure is down and everything adheres correctly. And after that, it left a lot of seams and openings and gaps. So the purpose of today's episode is to look at smoothing out the surfaces of these gaps, getting rid of them so everything is flush, and also beveling the hills a bit more so the gradient isn't as rough so models can stand on them without falling off. So not too much heavy stuff in this one. It's mostly using plaster of Paris as a gap filler, and then some primary texturing of heavier rocks, lighter rocks in certain areas, and sanding of the board itself. So let's take a look. So from what you can see here, we've done a little bit of work already. The first thing we did was we took plaster of Paris, comes in giant tubs. This is the stuff they use for piñatas and all those other types of things. It's a powdery, white powder, you mix it with water and it becomes sort of like a clay, and then you would just smooth it everywhere into the gaps. So we did that everywhere where there were divisions. So the board ran a whole line going down this way. That's now covered. All these hills are now flush. There's no more gaps here. And we also filled in the riverbed. So we got rid of these bubbles, if you remember from last time when I put the heat gun a little too hard on it. After that, once you let it dry, and it doesn't take very long, about maybe 10-20 minutes, we went on to secondary texturing. In this case, we took some smaller stones that you can get at any craft store. You can even, if you want to save money, just go out and find them. I prefer the less dirtier and or easier way. And these are basically just stones either from aquariums or for flower arrangements, that type of stuff. So I took these and I focused them around areas they would be in nature. So near cliff faces, so anywhere the sharp inclines, you'd have rocks falling down. I put some in the riverbed, some smoother ones because those would naturally be worn down by the water flow. The ruins on the terrain have them, just some bigger rocks showing the building crumbling. And those were just glued down with your basic hot glue gun. You know, just heat it up, put a little dab on it somewhere, and place the rock on it. Easy as that. The second part, we took a smaller set of stones. It's a bit finer. Again, you can get them at the craft store. And I guess these are more equivalent to aquarium stones. They're a bit smaller. And we clustered these around the bigger rocks. So anywhere the bigger ones are in the stream, for example, along the cliff edges. And then just to break up texture overall on the board, we scattered them throughout the place. It may not look like much now, but once you take the sand and put it on, and once we dry brush everything, they'll really stand out then because you'll have different sizes and it's more natural looking than just a plain board that's one texture. After that, the next step we're going to have to do is sand the entire board, and for this you just use playground sand. Cheap, easy to find, and we just take a whole tub of Elmer's glue, water it down a little bit because it spreads easier, so just mix it with some water, take a large brush and just brush the glue on, and then sand over it. Now one of the tricks there is that if you paint a certain area, you put the sand on it, and then you start again, you'll develop these built-up lines where they overlap, and that'll look kind of stupid when you dry brush. So what you do to avoid that is to have the glue go a bit further than where you want to have the sand go, and then slowly fade the sand out so that there's no hard lines. And you'll be able to see that in our next episode. And hopefully we won't have any lines showing anywhere. The other thing we did was we took a very, very fine sand, again from a craft store, and this is more like for the sand art type of stuff. And that stuff we put into the riverbed, since that is usually going to be the smoothest sand around, since the water flow will erode everything. Again, that adds texture, and it'll be something neat to look at through the resin once it's all painted. So, other than that, we move on to the next step, and the next step is going to be the actual painting of the board. So this is where the fun begins. We'll be primering, getting the colors matched to the bases of our models, and then we'll show you guys how the dry brushing technique works. It's really simple, but it's also very easy to mess up, so we'll show you some techniques on how to make it look right. We'll also be painting the ruins, and after that episode we'll focus on all the fine details like placing bushes, trees, grass, all that type of stuff, and we'll go from there. So, once again, now you know.
And I'm not saying it this time.